Santosh, what really was the starting point for Aśoka? When did the idea really germinate?
Actually, most of my films I've done, like the children's film I've done, and all this has been had their roots in school, which I studied. I studied those, stories, and I made it into films. So likewise, Aśoka is also something I studied in school, and we had this very interesting history teacher who used to, enact the whole walk after the Kalinga War, and so it was always interesting to us as kids. This whole myth about this person who was such a fantastic warrior. Then suddenly one day they said, okay, no more fighting. So we thought it was very disappointing initially. So we used to ask him why it happened like that, and why suddenly such a nice warrior should stop fighting. So he used to tell that, when you're young, you used to throw stones at dogs, and at one point you'll give it up. That time you remember what I told and all that stuff. So I thought it was a very interesting, so it's something that has remained with me. So when I was shooting for other films, and we get to travel hell of a lot, you just travel through. So I began to pick up bits and pieces of folklores and legends that surround this very interesting person, because most of Aśoka we know is about the Kalinga War and his transformation and the edicts he has made and things like that. So there are a lot of very interesting folklore and legends which made him out to be a very interesting human being, more than a king and everything, because he has gone through all these transitions from being a very ambitious prince who is not really favored, to a very loving son, to a romantic, to a very ambitious ambitious king, to having finally renounced everything and finding that it is better to conquer hearts instead of conquering corpses.
Does that sound familiar? How historically accurate did you want your portrayal of Aśoka to be?
Actually, I wanted to treat him like a human being, and most of what we are aware in history is actually after the Kalinga War and during that process. So we are more or less on the lines of that. But it is only that we have treated him like a normal human being, in terms of that. For that we actually follow the legends of, there's a legend of Karuvaki, who was a fisherwoman who married Aśoka in the end. So we have incorporated all this. So it has a bit of fairy tale, dramatized folklore kind of a thing. And we have the historical things like he and his confrontation with his brothers, him wanting to conquer. But it is not a documentary on his life.
How did you rope in Shah Rukh Khan in this? Were you always keen on that, or did that?
No, actually, the whole idea that when you made Aśoka, if I had made it with someone like a character actor or something like that, I don't think the kind of curiosity would have been there. And on top of that, we all fail to understand that all these stars also can be very good actors. You know what I mean? They are also very good actors, some of them. And I feel that there's a lot of talent, but they're also stars. So they are somehow stereotyped into certain images and things like that. And so when we meet some people, you realize that maybe someone like Shah Rukh, I really found him interesting because he could play everything, I thought. He could be a very innocent kind of a person, then he could be very boisterous, ambitious. Then he could also be someone who's very romantic in terms of portraying characters. So I wanted all these transitions in the movie, and I thought it would be very interesting.
Your film, The Terrorist,
Yeah.
won rave reviews across the world, film festivals, audiences, artists. Had you expected this kind of a completely overwhelming reaction, or?
Actually, my whole idea is that you be very true to yourself. Sometimes I feel that after I made Terrorist, of course they said that here is someone who has no songs in the movie. So I said, look here, I love songs and all. It's not that I don't like songs, because I want to be an Indian without an accent. I want your films to have whatever it reflects. So this time when you took a film with all the songs and things like that, they of course like the whole idea of telling a story in your way of storytelling. That is a very Indian way of storytelling, where you have songs, and things like that. And they actually really like the whole idea of also it the film also talking about this very universal idea of a war which was fought and how it transformed. So it is not entirely meaningless, and it is not just it is how the film is constructed. So I think somewhere because the Western audience also very curious about it, but for everything it is a very purely Indian film, so it appeals to them too.
How interested are you in making international films today? International projects or?
Actually, I have not really looked at upon as international films or something. I always wanted to make films which I really wanted to make. So I've made 2 children's film, and you have made something like Terrorist, and then you have made Aśoka, and now next film I'm planning to make a children's film again. I think if the film requires a bigness, and it has to be big, and it is going to be a film like that, then I don't mind experimenting again with actors and things like that, stars and things like that, like a Bollywood film.
How did your interest in children's films, why this particular format? You made 2 already. What?
Yeah, like I said, most of the stories were inspired from school, and I really think that sometimes it's very easy to make films with children, because everyone says it's very difficult to make films with children. But I somewhere think it's easy, because don't dictate anything to them, just follow them around and make them feel that they're making the film also, because then it becomes much more easier for them, for us to make the film. Because if you give them an idea that it is actually they who are doing everything and we are just, so I find it very interesting to say things, what I want to say, and using them. Yeah.
Was it always your dream to be a filmmaker, or what are you more interested in? Shooting films or in, directing?
Actually, it's a very good. Actually, my first film, I did a one-hour film that I directed and shot and everything, and I made it in Arunachal Pradesh, which is near the Himalayas and things like that. And I shot it with people who have never actually had any idea what filmmaking is all about. And it is about a girl who goes to school because she's punished, and how she starts to study and things like that. So that was my start-off point, because that I directed also. But I always wanted to shoot films, because I don't know why. I like, sometimes when I was studying in Film Institute, I used to think that all of us are going through the same education, all of us are getting the same experiences of watching a film or things like that. So it always occurred to me that you have a more focused first-hand education when you travel, because whenever you have traveled and come back, you have so many stories to tell, your mind is more fertile, you feel very interested in everything. So I think I've traveled a bit, and cinematography gives you this fantastic opportunity to travel to different places and also observe nature as nature, in terms of, you really know, when you shot a film like Roja, I hated snow after that, because you're in the snow 1.5 months and storm and whatnot. But to see it looks very nice, So the hostility atmosphere can give you. Or in Dil Se, when we shot this film in the song in Leh, this lack of oxygen. So you know how hostile it is, and it is a very strange place, and you often wonder about the harmony and everything that is there. So you always have a very different view of looking at things, and you sometimes wish that that is what you like actually. I mean, to travel and to shoot.
When you made Terrorist, Americans reacted by saying that if we had wanted to make a film of this sort and shoot it the way you have, then we'd have spent millions of dollars in achieving that kind of thing. So how did you go about doing it in your limited resources and your
Terrorist actually is a film that I want to do, because sometimes you get bored shooting in artificial rain for films, and then I said I'm going to shoot a film only in rain, So it's a film that I wanted to start from the beginning. Like if you paint a picture, you start at the beginning and finish at the feet, not do here and there and things like that. And I was also supported by a fantastic crew, which were full of students who came to do a thesis for their college thing. So all of them were very highly motivated, and the only thing we didn't have was money actually. Other than that, we had everything going. And sometimes I feel that it is also we didn't want to let them down. So there was a lot of interest that was, there was a lot of charge in making this film, you know. And when it was, and I think Terrorist is a film that is also very lucky that way, because when it was in Cairo, you had someone like John Malkovich, who was a jury chairman, who personally picked up the film and said this film has to be seen by everyone, and he presented it and things like that. Then you had also someone like Michael O'Danti, who wrote English Patient and all that, who also supported it when it was released in London. So you have a lot of people supporting the film, and I like the whole idea of actually releasing a film in 13 countries, and you have DVDs of it in Amazon.com and things like that, which I think was very exciting, because I didn't want to make an art film where no one saw it and it got one award and then back in the shelf. I really wanted the film to be seen, you know what I mean, by people and wonder what it is all about, things like that. Yeah, so it was good fun actually.
In Aśoka, is there any particular look that you tried to achieve? What really is the...
Yeah, actually, whenever we are used to period films from maybe television and previously also, I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted to have its own kind of a style. In fact, I didn't want to have symmetry, like a throne in the center and people standing around it and things like that, I wanted to be something that is captured, handled, and, I wanted to be in the painting than look at the painting. It's not like painting on a wall which you stand back and it's like you were taken inside, and, it is like what do you see inside a painting. So I like that energy in the film, and I wanted to have a energy to the film. I didn't want it to be slow. And
were you always ready to have songs in the film, or had you already...
Yeah, I'm sure, because I feel that songs have been, maybe when you say songs, I feel it is very Indian, or not just very Indian, it's very universal, because even a prayer is a song, So I think it's like saying that, have you ever been in love? Of course, everyone has been in love, or maybe in the mind, maybe, or maybe really in love. So I think these are things that are been there for centuries, I guess. Yeah, I wanted to have songs, because I love shooting songs. I like watching people's reaction when they do songs. In fact, I also try to approach songs like that. Whenever I've shot songs, whether it is Chaya Chaya or Mebu Mere and all that, I always feel that people will like this, and I like the way they watch in a theater, especially. I like the reaction when people see songs.
Now that Aśoka is ready, when you look back, which performance or what really impressed you among the actors and the scenes?
Actually, a lot of, I think, I really think that there's fantastic performance by Shah Rukh Khan and Kareena and Rahul Dev and Danny. All of them have done their bit. I think that is for the people to say actually what they think about the film.
The battle sequences that have been shot, what kind of planning went to that, and did it just happen, or did...
No, actually, battles, because it can be very expensive if we just go on shooting. So we had very restrained kind of shooting, because even the time of the year was very important, because you are having 60 elephants, and if you're shooting in a hot summer weather, and if all of them want to drink water, too much water, you're in trouble. So I think the planning has to start from there, where, how much, what, because it can just go out of hand if people get too tired. So we chosen a little winterish kind of a time, and so that everything would be cool, and then we really storyboarded the whole thing so that we could do it within a certain budget and not just go on doing something. Yeah.
What film are you shooting next, and which is your own film that you're planning?
Actually, I'm planning to do a children's film myself personally. Then I'm doing a film for M.F. Hussain, which I'm shooting for him, his new film. Because I've never worked with a painter, I wanted to work with a painter. Okay, thank you. Yeah.